Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner Mark Wages. And you know what? People, this is a good one tonight. I'm excited about this. I'm going to turn this over to my bobbleheaded partner who's going to kick us off tonight. This is a good one, people. I'm glad that you're here. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, bud? Doing okay?
I had a great day.
Good.
Yeah, I had a great day. I really did.
Guys, obviously you see Cindy Pressel. She is actually my personal counselor at the facility I go to. It's called Groups, and the whole thing is based around the group mentality. It takes all of us to stay where we're at, and I feel very blessed that she's here and she's going to share her story, and it's a very powerful one, guys. It really is. We don't say that a lot unless it's true, and this is something that she's very powerful story. It's considers a lot of loss and a lot of overcoming. And we were talking before stream. She has a 19-year-old daughter, and I'm telling you, and she said that they sit around and laugh and stuff. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff I like to hear. And
Amen.
And it's just a testament that you can get past what you go through. And not that it's not going to be hard, but anyway. So we're going to move on from that. But guys, listen, moderators, if you listen to me here, there is absolutely no warnings tonight. Anybody comes in here acting crazy, sorry, we're getting the boot right away. We're not going to mess with that stuff. And that's really all I have to say, and just be respectful. And I should ask you this before we went on stream, Cindy. I forgot to ask you. At the end, we may have some questions. Would you be willing to answer some if they ask?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So I just, because what I'll do is I could send them a Zoom link and they can come in audio and they can actually ask you if they want, or they could type it in the chat, whatever you guys want to do. And we may skip over an hour this time, Tommy. Maybe just depends on how this goes. As long as you're okay. Whenever you're,
I'm not at all concerned, and I don't care about the algorithm or the big red button.
Right.
If we're clicking and we're continuing to click, then we're just going to go with that.
I just want Cindy to be able to get her what she needs to get out.
Whenever she's
share.
Good to go.
So,
yeah, we don't want to run her any later than.
But so I'll throw it back at you, and you guys go ahead, and I'll try to do things in the background here. If you guys, Cindy, if you need anything, just say it, and we'll see what we got. Okay.
Thank you, my brother.
Great. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Listen, to all of you that sent emails last night, I can honestly say I don't think we ever got more emails on one video in one day than we got last night. It was staggering. So if we haven't gotten back to you, we will. I promise you. But boy, did we get a lot of emails last night. And we got emails, 11 countries as of 4 o'clock today. 11 countries had written into the Lifeboat, which is exciting. It's good stuff. But Cindy, so you're working as a counselor, which, for as far as I'm concerned, is probably one of the most difficult jobs and maybe one of the most rewarding jobs on the planet. as we were talking about before the show started, it's a calling more than it is a job,
Yeah,
and
it's a passion.
it has to be, right. Can you tell us how you got into that?
Um, well, when I moved to Florida with my husband and three kids back in 2003, um, he decided that he was going to stay home and watch the kids, and I had to go to work. And at that point, I had been sober for a little while, and um, I got a job working a program at the Salvation Army. It was basically charity work.
Yeah.
But I had been an alcoholic for years, and I knew this struggle, and I was able to get myself sober for long enough to get the job, and I loved it. They're my people.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I completely,
We're in this
trust me,
together.
I completely get that. Um, so and you started at the Salvation Army. I actually went through a couple of courses at the Salvation Army, so I've gone through that. The I have a question just real quick because it jumped up at me. It wasn't something I was thinking about, but I'm of the firm belief, and I know that this offends some people, but I'm of the firm belief that you just can't do this job and do it effectively if you haven't been there. I've sat in classes with people that knew everything there was to know, except they didn't know what it was like to hear that, that calling inside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they haven't gone through the depths of desperation, and that's not something you can read. It's something you have to feel and go through and pull yourself out of, to be able to help other people out of it.
Yeah, then we agree. Because thank you, Blue Dazzle. I am of the firm belief that the greatest counselors in the world are all people that, we talk about this a lot on the Lifeboat. If you try to explain your drug addiction to someone who's never been addicted to drugs, you spend the first 45 minutes trying to explain something that cannot be explained, right? Because what
Yeah,
we do when we're in the life goes against logic. We all know that. But in order to try to make somebody understand that, I have loved ones that I've talked to for 400 hours, and in their head, well, just stop, is something that makes sense to them, but obviously not to someone who's been there.
no, I would tell people that would say to me, just stop drinking, and I'd say, can you just stop breathing?
Yeah.
How easy would that be for you?
Or blinking, right?
Blinking.
Right? Because it's run by, I mean, and we talked about this on the show a couple of times. It's run by the same part of the brain, right? The part of your brain that's demanding that you give it booze or you give it drugs or whatever your substance of choice was. It's really coming from so far back there that it is the same part of the brain that is making your eyes blink. So yeah, I say that whenever people say to me, all you got to do is stop, I go, yeah, give me 3 minutes of no blinking. All right, let's see what you can do. Um, so right before we went live, we were talking a little bit about medical assisted therapy, and obviously, this is something that you're really involved in. And I'm of the firm belief that, especially with the number of people that are dying right now in our country, that medical assisted therapy may be the greatest tool that we've got. And I don't just mean for opiates, but I know that they're doing some pretty good stuff with alcohol right now, using
Yeah.
naloxone and stuff like that to try to treat. What has your experience been? Is this something that I mean, am I overstating this, or do you think that this is as great a hope as I think it is?
I think a medicated assisted treatment is the only way for a lot of people. Um, you that can't just not blink, you know,
Right.
they can't just stop. And the chances of them going back are great. If you do medicated assisted treatment and do it correctly, we don't want to keep you forever. Believe me, we don't. We want to see you go on and have a wonderful, beautiful life. And I get the privilege to see people come in and start to get their life together and progress and progress and progress, and then start decide they're ready to come off it, start to taper down, and I might see them at the grocery store and they'll give me a hug. That's the
Yeah.
greatest feeling is you've gone on with your life, and that is beautiful.
Yeah, that is a beautiful thing. You've been in this long enough where I don't imagine medical assisted treatment was something that was that had a whole lot of traction when you first started in this.
Um, I started it in methadone
Oh,
in 2013, and I worked there for about 5 years. So there's a little bit of difference between Suboxone and methadone. A lot of it really needs to be regulated very closely.
yeah,
Not that Suboxone doesn't, but with the methadone, it can be abused so quickly that you really have to do your job as a counselor to know what's going on inside someone's head, or do the
sure.
best you can to know what their motivations are.
Yeah. People that want to go up as high as they can and people that want to and get as many take home doses. I started the first, I was addicted to heroin for about 30 plus years and I tried the methadone thing I think three times before and for me it wasn't the answer. And I'm not bad mouthing anybody that is successful on it. God bless you, man. Stick with it, kill it. I think that's great. For me, and I think you nailed it, for me, it was just something that I could abuse. I came to figure out that there were certain drugs I could mix with it that would basically release so much of the methadone that I could go home and nod on the stuff. And it became, one of a situation where I was using really strong uppers as a way to basically use that drug as a downer. Right, I was using it
Mhm.
as it almost became heroin if I did enough of the upper, and you just don't see, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me, but I don't see abuse with Suboxone. I just don't. There's no buzz. There's no
Yeah.
potential for buzz. At least,
Not not as often. I know that it's not abused as often, and I have seen success stories with methadone. It
yeah, no
does work.
question.
It just again depends on the person's motivation for coming into treatment.
Right. Well, and it's just, I mean, they're both really, really strong opiates, and I think this is probably a point worth visiting because, this is the plague right now, right? Opiates is the plague that's killing 300 people a day.
Mhm.
But for me, this was something that if you've been on dope for any length of time, then Suboxone just doesn't do a thing. And when you try to convince family members of this, sometimes they don't seem to get it. But if you just keep increasing that dose of methadone, you can basically get to a point where you can catch your buzz, no matter how long you've been doing it. And once you get to a certain point in with Suboxone, you're done.
Mhm.
Anything after, at least in my personal experience, this is just when you get up past two strips, like, if I ate two strips or I ate seven, I'm not going to notice a difference in any way.
Yeah,
It
there
just
is
sort
a
of
ceiling.
saturates. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So how
we
long have you
we
been
won't
working?
prescribe anything over 20.
Right.
We
And
just won't.
that's, when I remember when I first started, it was 32, at least where I started, they were talking about 32 milligrams was the most that they would take anybody up to. They have decreased to 20.
Isn't
And
let me jump in here real quick, if
please,
I could. Isn't didn't they do a study, Cindy, where they said nothing anything over 16 isn't even therapeutic? Ain't that what they said in the study anyway?
I believe I believe it's 80% of your receptors are saturated at that point.
Okay.
right, that's what I read. That's
Uh,
So
exactly what I read.
going above that makes very little difference.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
get.
I think people that go above that, it's probably a mental thing. We spend so much time thinking that if one is good, then two must be excellent and four must be perfect. And you sort of get conditioned for that. But um, for me anyway, the smaller a dose I take of that, the more effective it seems to be. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like there, I remember injuring myself and talking to a doctor who suggested that I take more because of the painkiller effect. And not only did it not do much for the painkiller effect, it didn't work as well to keep me sort of on an even keel. And I
Mhm.
think I'm glad that you're here because when someone who's addicted to drugs comes out here and says, this stuff isn't going to get you high. What it's going to do is it's going to saturate those receptors so that your brain thinks 24 hours a day that it just had a fix and you're not going to
Mhm.
concentrate on that stuff. I
Mhm.
think people tend to doubt addicts when they say that. But when they have somebody that's a professional that's, in the business doing it, we had a doctor on here that said basically the same thing. But anytime we can have somebody on here that sort of reinforces that, I don't want the stigma of this, what society does with this drugs to keep people from getting on it, because for so many people it's answered prayer.
Yes, it definitely is. It's a it's a lifesaver.
Are you seeing the success rates a lot higher with Suboxone than you did with yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
do. Mostly because of, again, the motivation for coming into treatment. Um, do you want to get well? Do you want your life back? Then you're not going to play with something that you you're dancing on between
right,
raindrops there. And um, most of the people I see coming into Suboxone, they're desperate to get their life together. They know they're going to die if they don't.
right. Well, especially today, right? I mean, the we did a show. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. Mark always can say that, tell you when things are. I can never remember them, but we did a show called "Where Did All the Heroin Go?" And I talked to a couple of people that are still in the life who just quite simply can't find it. And now the only thing that's out there is this fentanyl, and it is such a dangerous substance. Are you seeing people come in who are trying to get off fentanyl? I mean, is that the sort of the push now, or is it still mostly heroin?
No, it's mostly fentanyl now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
People, I hope you're
that's
hearing that. That's Indiana,
yeah, that's saying something because this is small town Indiana, guys.
right?
This is
We're
not
not,
this is not New York, L.A., Skid Row,
right.
none of that.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say the exact same thing. We're not talking Kensington, and we're not talking San Francisco or New York. This is Indiana. But it's basically across the country. One of the things, Cindy, that I think about a lot whenever I talk to someone who is a professional counselor. Um, do you go and talk to people? I mean, because Mark and I did this, like we were talking about before we went live. There was a period of time where we were doing two of these a day, and then spending probably 3 or 4 hours a day talking to people off the air, and trying to get them help. And I think we both kind of went insane. Do you have to go and talk to a counselor yourself? Is this something that do you take the work home? I guess maybe that's the way I should have asked the question. Do you
Um,
find yourself taking this home at all?
this it is my home.
I
Um,
love it.
uh, you know, this is my world. This is my life. So, I always tell people, call me at 3 in the morning. I'm here. You know,
she's telling the truth too. She tells me that all the time.
All right.
because I would much rather you call me at 3 a.m. and I lose an hour of sleep than to not see you tomorrow because no one was there to talk to. Um,
That's so
and
powerful.
and people don't abuse that. A lot of times somebody will just text me and say, "Hey," and I'll say, "Hey, I'm here. Do you want to talk?" They'll usually say no. I just wanted to know you're there.
Something there really is something to that. I actually this is something that happens a lot on the lifeboat. Honestly, I get it a lot where someone will text out, and I would say probably 10% of the time someone will say, "Yeah, please call me." But about 90% of the time, if I just respond back and say, "Hey man, I'm here. You need me?" They'll go, "No, no, I think I'm cool. But if I need you, can I call?" They don't. Usually, and we beat this to death on the boat, but this it becomes a family. It really does, and
Mhm.
you learn to really sort of lean on these people. I loved hearing you say, I see these people in the grocery store, and and I get a hug because there was a woman that got me on Suboxone. I had been sober 5 years, and I was getting ready to leave a halfway house and go home, and she called me, and I was so mean to this woman, this poor woman, because I had gone through. They kept reassigning me a new counselor, and I said, "I'm not talking to you. I'm not doing this again." Like I was vicious. But she said, "Can I just ask you one question? What are your fears?" And I said, "Are you stupid? My fear is I'm going to do heroin. It's out there. It's wanting to get me." And she got me into this program, which was approved for federal inmates and managed to push it through in about a tenth of the normal time. And
Wonderful.
I will
That's
never
awesome.
forget this person. I literally will. I call her about once every 6 months just to say, "Man, what life's good. Thank you. This is what I'm doing with myself." But uh, I think that desperation is something that I don't know. I abused a lot of drugs, but alcohol and opiates seem to me to cause a different level of desperation than other drugs do. And that's not just from being an addict. That's from spending, better than a year and doing 500 of these videos and talking to a lot of addicts. There seems to be almost a correlation between what alcohol does to you and what opiates do.
Well,
That
they
causes.
work on, excuse me, they work on the same mu receptors in your
That's
brain.
right. The MUs.
Yeah.
Are you having success with medical assisted treatment with alcohol?
Um, when I got sober, the only medicated assisted anything there was
And abuse.
antabuse.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of people that badmouth Antabuse and said it,
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't
it,
great.
you'll only drink on that once,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then when you realize you're not actually gonna die, um, it does put the fear of God in you that um, you know after that alcohol was not the same for me. I was very scared of it, but
right.
I did continue to use it.
Yeah.
Now you
Well,
were,
go ahead, Mark.
yeah. And we've been talking a lot, Tommy, about like safe injecting sites and things like that. And I bring this up because I know you have some views on that too. Um, you know, because there's really no places for like alcoholics to go like for a place like that to be safe. You know what I mean? Because it's just
Right.
it's everywhere. And
Well, it's everywhere, and they go and they use. We're in the process of setting up the Safe Rides program here. Sort of, we had a friend that got into a DWI car wreck, and she's now going to prison for a very long time. And thank God no one was killed, but a lot of people were badly injured, and sort of in her memory, so to speak. While she's gone, we've been setting up Safe Rides, and I've gotten pretty involved in it. But because it's everywhere, we're in Nevada where the when you go and drink at a bar, their job is to get you drunk and then get you to gamble every single penny you have in a machine, and then they kick you out the door. And there are so many people that end up driving drunk because they don't even have money for a cab or for any way to get home safely. But the one of the things that I think shows a ton of promise is that because again, as you brought up, and I think it's key, the MU receptor right in the brain is the one that alcohol is working on the same receptor that is opiates. And naloxone, although they weren't planning on this happening, they've been treating a lot of people. And I interviewed a couple of counselors here in Nevada that said naloxone has been sort of a godsend. It takes away the fun. You can actually drink on it. It's not like antabuse that's going to make you sick, but your brain then doesn't release the feel good chemicals after the first couple of drinks like it normally would.
Yeah,
And a lot of people just sort of up and quit, which I think is,
that's
you
great.
know, yeah, right. If technology continues to move forward, I think we got to sort of embrace that.
Mhm.
But again, you still have people who go, well, you're trading one thing for another. Again, it's a drug that doesn't get you high. It doesn't do a damn thing for you. But
that
that
you have a very unique perspective too, Cindy. You with the loss of your child. That is didn't that like push you that direction back into doing what you're doing?
Well, yeah. After I lost my son, I stopped counseling for about a year because I was
Aw,
devastated. I couldn't function, and another thought that kept going through my mind is I couldn't save my own son. What good am I going to be to anybody else? And um, I was a nanny. I was working as a nanny for a year, and then groups reached out to me and told me their philosophy, and I loved it. And I was like, this is something I can do. They're not trying to catch you, or groups will do anything they can to help you get sober and stay sober and address every barrier, every issue. Nothing's off the table in the groups. So I thought this was beautiful. So I went back to counseling, and I'm so grateful that I did, because now I kind of keep my son alive through that. He
Oh, I
motivates
love that.
me to do what I do. And even if I get somebody who's, talking crap,
Snack.
you know, um, it's like, that's okay. You know, maybe this person just needs a little more love, a little more caring, a little more understanding than the next person. And, there's no throwaway people.
Oh,
There's,
thank God. What a great thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, we're, we're
How
all worth
how long
saving.
ago did you lose your boy?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So
Uh,
still really raw.
yeah, it was, excuse me, April 14th, 2020. The next day they declared the pandemic and the whole world shut down. So it was very easy for me to just uh,
Shut down.
isolate and hide, and
Wow.
you
I didn't know that part of it, Cindy.
What
That's
god awful
hard.
timing.
That's
I mean, oh my
hard. God,
lord.
that's so
Yeah.
hard.
When you
yeah,
need interaction more than anything in the world, they take it away from you.
Wow.
yeah, and he didn't have a funeral or anything, and I feel guilt about that because I wasn't able to do that for him. I also had aspiration pneumonia because when I was trying to revive him, I inhaled some of the fluids from his lungs. So I was in the hospital with uh, pneumonia for 5 days after his passing, and my oldest daughter, thank God for her, made all the arrangements and um, had him cremated because that's the only thing we could do then. And by the time I got out of the hospital, it was all done because I don't think I could have done that. I'm sure I couldn't have done that. And
Speaking
that
of the
that was a
inability to
blessing
do
to
that,
me. That was a blessing.
you so you did CPR. You obviously found your son.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My mom used to work on something called the Fast Squad, which where I grew up was like an EMT, but we were in such a rural part of the world, and she actually got the call for her dad, and went out there and performed CPR on her dad, and I tell you what, I can't wrap my brain around that. I really can't. It's something that I struggle really hard to try to um, I think the courage it takes to to be able to do that and then to be able to talk about it. God bless you. I mean that is. But people, please listen because this is when I spit out statistics and I talk about the number of people and that we're going to lose 100,000 people this year. This is what this means,
Yeah.
right? These aren't numbers on a piece of paper. This is human beings, and these are moms that perform CPR on their kids. This is something that is so real that
Mhm.
if you got a voice, you got to use it. Like this is really the
Yeah.
most important thing in the world.
Yeah. And I feel obligated to try to help as many people as I can. I want to be the one that I wish my son had to talk to.
Well, you're proving that by coming on an international call-in show and talking about this because this has to be the hardest thing in the world, and I can't thank you enough for doing it because the courage it takes to come on and talk about this is something that is just amazing. And as Mark brought up, safe injection sites, and there's a lot of different things that are being put in place. Where I live, they're just now allowing fentanyl testing strips, to be given out at needle exchange programs and things like that. And I'm of the firm belief, and I understand why people say, well, we don't want to give people a place to get high. If there's anything that we can do to keep somebody alive long enough to try to get them counseling, I
Yeah.
don't care what it is anymore. And I know I'm probably not gonna. I'll get some real serious hate mail tonight, but I don't. I will.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's anything, in my opinion, that crosses the line. You can't help somebody if they're not breathing, and
Yeah. Yeah, if that's what it takes, even the fentanyl, um, the free fentanyl that they're doing in Canada, if
Canada,
that
yeah.
if that gets somebody out of their bathroom or their bedroom, wherever they're alone doing fentanyl, if that gets them out of that darkness, and into an environment where somebody can talk to them and give them some hope and say, I was the Walking Dead. I was given fentanyl patches and sent home to die because my doctor tried everything else.
That's
Ironically, that's what worked. Is I realized everybody's given up on me. I have no hope, and I said a prayer to the universe, and they were answered.
Thank God.
that's
Huh?
awesome.
That
really
really
cool.
is. The and I think you touched on something that's key is that getting it out of the as an example, the program that you brought up in Canada. Number one, get the people out of doing it in their house. But one of the things that I think gets glossed over is when you're in your bathroom, you're probably not doing fentanyl, right? You're doing a version of fentanyl, but you're doing a version of fentanyl that are mixed by guys who are smoking cigarettes over the recipe, and as opposed to doing alpha fentanyl, where they're actually controlling each dose and how much people are getting. There's something terrifying about just allowing this stuff to come in, and right now we're being attacked by another country. I'm not going to say the name of it because they'll bury our video, but we're being attacked by another country with this garbage. Plain and simple, we are being attacked by another country, and they were trying to kill our kids. They're trying to kill the next generation of soldiers. They're trying to kill the next generation of scientists and of teachers. And I don't think that there's anything at this point that we can take off the table. Now, I think, we're a country where every state can decide whatever they want to decide, but I think that you really nailed it when you get somebody back into an environment where somebody can talk to them, where someone can talk to someone like you, and people can intervene. If we allow these people to continue to shoot this stuff in their bathroom, then we're going to hit 250,000 a year, and then we're going to hit 500,000 a year. Nothing has worked up to this point. I think that,
And that's
you know,
that's another point, Tommy. I think that we are at that lower end of that already. The numbers aren't correct. They can't be.
no, they're not.
I really do think that they're higher.
Well, they told us
significant.
yesterday, and I don't want to take too much time from Cindy, but they told us yesterday that fentanyl overdoses are up 130 or 160% from last year, but the number of overdoses is only going to be 30,000 more. Well, if it's 160%, well, then that's going to be 160,000 more people than it was the previous year. I'm not sure how they do their math, but the statistics aren't real, and they're scary as hell, even the fake ones. But the number of people we're losing is staggering. It takes a lot of courage, Cindy, to come on and talk about this. Do you find that being back in an environment where people are on a daily basis using the substance that that cost you your son's life, is that credibility with these people, or is it something that is just really really difficult to to
Uh,
endure?
it, it's it motivates me to try to express how critical this is. This is your life, and if you knew a fraction of the pain I feel every day, you would run to treatment. You would run to treatment, and you would keep trying no matter how many times it takes, no matter how many different things you try, just keep trying. Um, because if I didn't just keep trying, I wouldn't be here. You know,
Right? Amen. Walking proof. Yeah.
yeah.
And you know what? That's so many people here on the boat today. The number of people that that are beating the odds, so to speak, because the
Mhm.
odds are not in our favor, and I think we know that. The How many people are in a group that you teach?
Well, there's about 12, 10, 12 people in each group, and I think I have like 10 or 11 groups right now.
Wow,
And
so there's a lot of
let,
people.
let, let me say something there too, because I'm in the group with her on Thursdays, and it is, guys, she's exactly who she is right here. And that's amazing because you don't get that at a whole lot of places. I do think it's starting to change. I think Cindy would probably agree with me on that. The world itself is actually starting to pivot just a little now. Things are starting to wake up, and it's because of what Cindy's doing, what Tommy's doing, what I'm doing, what you guys are doing. It's because we won't shut up. and
Amen.
we're there to help each other through all of it. And when I go to group on Thursday, I look forward to it. And the place I was at before, not at all. It was a chore. We would look for any other reason to get out of it, and it's just not the case here. And I think that is the whole philosophy of where groups itself is. That's why they called it groups. It's because you're fixing it with the medicated assisted treatment with the physical part, but they also recognize that the biggest part of trying to get off of this stuff is the mental aspect, and it takes the group to get you there.
Yeah.
And
It's called Groups Recover Together because we can't do this alone. Nobody can go into isolation and get well. Um,
Amen.
uh, Part of the disease takes you into isolation. You can only get well when you come and connect with others and have a genuine connection. And um, my people in groups, I can just sit back and kind of watch. They support each other. They talk to each other. They give each other ideas. And, oh, you got a flat tire? I'll come fix it. That's the beauty of Groups Recover Together or any other program like that.
well, case
That
case in point, Cindy Lucas just came and fixed my silcock. I mean, honestly, my spigot outside, and this is
I
how
love it.
it's awesome because you become not even just friends. It's more than that. It's because
It's family.
you're there with people that, just like here, you're there with people that understand what you've been through because they're going through the same
Right.
thing. And it is a different thing. I'm sorry for people that are kind of looking on the outside here, but you can empathize, right? I mean, obviously they can't sympathize with us, but and her technique that she uses is basically let us say what we need to say, and then she gives us advice on it, and when she needs to, and
Right.
it's all about the communication, and we've been talking about that so much lately. But I do think it's key, and it's awesome that there's places out there now that do that, and she's on the front lines of it, and it's awesome because it takes a person, especially what she's been through, to get to the point where she's able to do this now. And I know she says it's what she has to do, but still, it's hard sometimes. I guarantee it has to be.
there are days when I kind of do this, but
We say
going back to my
Oh, sorry.
son, if I can get someone to understand how important they are and how loved they are and how much they deserve to have a good life, that's and that they can do it. If I can overcome alcohol, I was sent home to die. I was in the hospital for the last 2 years more than I was out
Sure.
because of the chronic pancreatitis. My body was eating its own muscle um, to survive because I couldn't digest food. It it was as bad as it gets. And if I can do it, you can do it.
One of the things that we say here all the time is that we don't believe that the opposite of addiction is sobriety. We believe that the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
And I think probably the reason that you're as effective as you are in this is because your story is so much easier to connect with, right? If somebody comes in and says, I have a PhD in chemical dependency counseling, and I went to Harvard and Yale. Excuse me. The fact that the worst possible case scenario is something that you have endured, and I don't just mean as an addict, but as losing someone that you love to this freaking plague, and it's so much easier to connect. I mean, in the 35 minutes, 45 minutes that we've known each other, you're just a very easy person to connect with, and I think that that you're probably doing wonders because of what you've been through. I don't know that there's anything you could be doing to honor your son's memory more than what you're doing right now. And I mean that. That's really, it's not only is it courageous, but it's just I can't imagine the number of people that are affected by this. It's one thing to hear the story, but to be in a group with someone that is doing this every day, I think it would be very difficult to sit in your group and talk about how I just need to get high. Like, I think that would be a very difficult thing to do.
I do hear that, and it's like, then let's talk about it. Why are you feeling that way? Let's talk this through.
Yeah.
And can I show a picture of my son?
Sure.
Oh, please.
Please do.
Okay, he was about 11 in this picture. I didn't know that was going to be middle-aged for him.
Oh, Lord.
He's a cute kid, good-looking kid. Yeah.
And he grew into, a wonderful, beautiful person. He just had this. It got the best of him.
Didn't you say that he was like asking how you were doing the whole time?
Oh, he would tell me every day, after I stopped drinking, every day, he would give me a hug and say, "I'm proud of you, Mom." And after he passed, as an alcoholic, the first thing you're going to think is, what do I do? Do I go drink? I didn't want to drink. And then I went, how could I dishonor my son after he was so proud of me?
Yeah.
And that was gone. It's like, there's no way I will ever pick up, because he told me every day how proud he was.
I guarantee you he's still proud. Right now, the saddest thing about this plague is that if you went back 10 or 15 years, I lost friends all the time, people who overdosed on heroin, and it was something that was just a part of that, being in that lifestyle. Well, we were drug addicts. This was something that, most of us were doing 5 and 6 grams of dope a day. The average person that was experimenting with drugs wasn't dying, and today this stuff is in everything. Yesterday, we lost in the U.S. We lost a 15-year-old girl in a school, and according to even the people that knew her, this was the second time the girl had gotten high. And that's the reality of this poison that's on the street today, is that it's not necessarily taking people out who have chosen a lifestyle. And even when we say chose a lifestyle, it's a stupid thing to say, but you understand what I'm saying. People who have been doing this for a long time, and your number's going to come up. There are so many people that are dying their first time out, their second time out. There's a terrible documentary. It's a great documentary. It's a terrible story about a father who lost twins. And by all accounts, they went and bought these pills, and it was the first time they tried them. So it's really a plague.
My son had struggled with every addiction there is. He was able to overcome methamphetamine use, which is a bear.
A tough, yeah.
And he could do that. And he had only been using fentanyl for 2 weeks before his death.
Oh man! Wow.
Yeah, it's that's the norm these days. Honestly, not the exception. That's what you're hearing more than anything else.
Yeah, but it took 2 weeks.
That's how fast it can get you guys.
Yeah, and before those 2 weeks, he had gotten his life together. He was working. I was making his lunch every day and dropping him off at work on my way to work. 2 weeks.
Cindy, thank you so much for having the courage to come on here and talk about this, because I know, honestly,
it's hard.
I've done a couple. Well, and I've done a couple of shows on here after losing members of the boat, and they're near impossible, to come on and do that. And I'll never watch them again. I'm not going to go back and revisit any of those, because it was just so tough, and I can't imagine. This is not something I could have done, I promise you. And I have. It's so important, because this is it. Like, this is the face of what we're talking about. When I come on here and I talk about this epidemic, it doesn't. I don't know that it has the same punch when there's a face attached to it, because it's tearing me up. And I really hope it's tearing all of you up. Make a phone call, write a letter. You know, if they're having something in town where someone is running for office, go get on the microphone and ask them what the hell they're doing about fentanyl. Because right now, if you have a child, your child is more likely to die from a fentanyl overdose than they are cancer, than they are a car wreck, than they are any other way of dying. And that's the fact that that is the reality in this country is freaking terrifying. And if it hasn't seemed real, I really hope it's real today, right? Because today there's a face, and this is something that, you know, the vast majority of us have kids. You know, I know the demographic of the Lifeboat, and most of us have kids. So imagine this is, you know, this is your world.
Hold them tight, hug them, let them know you love them. Make connections with other people, especially other people that are hurting, because they need the most connection. They need the most love. And that will help you, that you get an underlying joy when you are kind and understanding, and you reach out and let someone know that you love them or that they're important to you. Even a smile to a stranger can make a
That's
difference.
scientific, by the way. Like we talked about that on the boat. You can actually hook someone up to a machine and watch that happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it really does the same thing in the brain that some of the, you know, the most addictive substances in the world do. Like Mark, you remember these conversations? I would call Mark and say, "I haven't felt like this sober ever."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're,
Yeah.
it really is an amazing thing.
It's a huge dump of dopamine, man. I mean, it really,
It's a huge dump
it
of
really
dopamine.
is. It really
Bottom
is.
line.
It's awesome.
Yep.
It's, you know, and I bring this up because Johnny is, you probably don't know this, Cindy, but his brother is Johnny Scoville from Chase the Heat. He's like a pepper legend in the pepper community. They get the same effect when they eat those super hot pods. You know,
Right.
they get this endorphin rush, and it's a pain reliever for them. You know, John.
And I do it without burning my mouth, which is just great.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that, you know, if people are wondering, are they really get a dopamine release out of helping somebody? Let me tell you something, guys. Just try it one time. Try to make
Yeah.
try to make a big difference in somebody's life just one time, and then you'll want to do it over and over and over again.
There's no question. You know,
Even
Tommy
a
Bird
little
that time. Go
a
ahead.
little difference. Just anything you can do to be kind is a rush. That does more good for you than it does for them.
Yep, yep, that's exactly right. You know, because when we have this drug in us and we're getting saturated with that, eventually our body doesn't give us that dopamine release because we get used to it. So your body, when you're doing stuff, you know, helping people, you don't build a tolerance to that. There's no tolerance to that. You just keep helping and you keep feeling good, and it really does. So, and Cindy, let me say this.
Please back me up on this. Mark, just real quick because I
Go for
saw
it.
it in the comment section, and this is life and death stuff. Please, Cindy, back me up on this. We've got some people that are struggling with alcohol who are thinking of quitting this cold turkey. Please, so that they don't just think that the bank robbing captain. Please let them know that you just can't cold turkey. If you've been in this long enough, you gotta have, right. I'm
Yeah.
not making this up, right? This is a fact.
No, you can die if you do that. I I I flatlined twice, and once was from stopping alcohol, and it stopped my heart.
You hearing that, everybody? I mean,
It
this
stopped
is
my
real.
heart. I woke up 2 weeks later in ICU.
Wow, you were out for 2 weeks. Wow.
I don't remember 2 weeks.
Okay.
When I came to, like, realizing I was in a hospital, it was 2 weeks later. And it's very important that you go to a hospital or a detox. After that one, they wouldn't let me go to detox anymore. They kept me in the house.
Did they? Yeah, I would figure that's probably and I think I've talked to you about this too, Cindy, that, you know, when I went to rehab, I tried to get into, well, it was Fairbanks, and the intake nurse, I might not have ever told you this. was trying to lead me to answer questions a specific way. She asked me if I had any alcohol involved, and I did not. I was not an alcoholic at all. I didn't drink at all. And she asked me that question 4 different times, and I didn't pick up on it. So
are you sure you don't drink?
Literally,
sure you don't?
literally,
Yeah.
man. I mean, literally like that. Because of the state I was in, because I was in withdrawal really, really bad. I just didn't pick up on it. And my wife's like looking at me like, why didn't you? She picked up on it and I didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, she asked me first. She had asked me for my insurance card. There's numbers on the back. She looked at the number on the back, and that's when she started doing that, because she knew that my insurance was not going to allow me to stay. And so they went and they tried for like 3 hours talking to these people on the phone. They really did try hard for me, and they said, $4,000 right now, or you got to leave. It's like what? We're drug addicts. Ain't none of us have any money, and you know what I mean. So that's a whole other problem. But I went back home, and what did I do? My first thought was, well, first I had to drive by my drug dealer with my wife in the car, literally on the road. It was crazy. Anyway, I stopped and got some alcohol. My wife was okay with it, but my thought was, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to pass out through all these freaking withdrawals. I'll wake up and I'll be hungover for a few days, but whatever. No, because I didn't drink. This is the same thing that happens with people that don't take fentanyl on a regular basis, that take it for the first few times.
That's it.
I had alcohol poisoning. I almost died.
Yeah.
I literally defecated, peed in my bed and all of that. My wife comes home, and at that point, my kids are in the other room, and of course they're teenagers, and taking.
By way of full disclosure, though, you drank what, 2/5? Right? Like,
well,
it's pretty hard.
I drank 2/5 of vodka and got in the car and drove and got another.
Good Lord.
That's the state of mind I was in, guys. And that's what I'm trying to say.
I get it.
And I know that a lot of us can relate. But now when I went back there, they wouldn't put me in rehab. They put me up on the psych ward, and I was the only one up there. But a day later, now because alcohol was involved, guess what? Back off to Fairbanks I went for 5 days, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. So
Yeah.
but it took that, and so
I have stopped and gotten a pint for a few people and said, drink this, we're going to the hospital, and I'm not letting you leave. And unfortunately, it's the way the insurance works.
Yeah.
that's what we're fighting
Well,
against,
you know what?
right?
If you're hearing this tonight, I assure you, when you get to the pearly gates, God's going to cut you a little slack if you tell them in there that you have a drinking problem, and they get you in there. You know what? I promise you.
Well, I'll just flat out say it, Tommy.
Insurance companies can handle that. Yeah.
I would have lied straight to their face if I needed to for that. I really would have.
Amen. AIG is not going to go out of business. They'll be fine. You know what I mean? And it does. They'll be fine. Don't worry about them. Cindy, one big question that. So, one of the things that I get all the time is from people that reach out and say, you know what, I want to help, and then I don't mean the lifeboat. They want to help, in the bigger sense of the word. And one of the things I say is that you can't let this conversation die. You got to be somebody that just continues to beat this drum no matter how much people tell you to stop, which we've done here. And the other thing is that I feel like if we're going to beat this, we're going to beat it from the demand side. We're not going to beat it from the supply side. We can bust every drug dealer in the entire world, and there'll be another one that takes their place 6 seconds later.
Yeah.
As far as like education, what do you think the age you can start talking to kids about this is?
Great question.
As soon as they understand that you can take something that can alter your consciousness, whether that be 5. I mean, look at your household. Is this something that's in your household? Even
You
if
have
it's
an uncle
not,
that's wasted all the time that you can point to and try to explain, right? Always be looking for that angle.
yeah. Or if it's gonna be in every household. Every household's gonna be touched by this,
Amen.
unfortunately.
You're right.
And I think a lot of the stigma breaking down is because so many people are being touched by this personally. But I would start the conversation as soon as you think they would understand it, and talk to them at their level. If they're 5, say that there's people that are hurting, that are taking this poison to try to numb their hurt,
There
and
you
they're
go,
dying
people.
from it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If you ever wondered how to talk to your kid, there you go. That's, I mean, as good as it gets right there.
I mean,
So that's
honestly,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah. So guys, just that right there, this right here shows you what kind of support system I have. If I don't have my family, this is what I've got, and this is why I stay sober. And it's to God's honest truth.
11 years.
Yep. And again, guys, you can have it too. You really can. I promise you. You really can.
Yeah.
And, Cindy, I can't tell you how much. I'm sure you would come back on if we asked you, right?
Oh, sure.
Put you on the spot. Put you on the spot.
Ask her with everybody watching. That's
Yeah,
the spirit. Well played. Well played.
Of course I would. Yeah, anytime. Just let me know.
And I know that there's a lot more to your story because I've heard a lot more of it, and I think that everybody is getting so much out of this. What I would encourage you to do is after this repost and the live chat comes back, go read the chat.
Yeah,
please.
Tomorrow. It takes about 24 hours, but please read what everybody's been saying, because it is really, really incredible stuff. You have had an effect on the Lifeboat, and that's
you put a big notch in it for sure. People are really connecting with you, and you'll see it. We don't have to tell you. Just go back and read it. So.
And I want to tell you something, Cindy, and this is really truthfully from the bottom of my heart. First of all, thank you, obviously, but it's such a difficult thing to take something as tragic as what has happened to you and make something good of it. And the vast majority of people don't. And I'm not bagging on anybody that lost kids, because how everyone has to deal with it is their own cross to bear. And that's something that is, monumental in every single case. But the fact that you do what you do, and the fact that you came here tonight, there are people in countries that I can't pronounce that are going to end up seeing this. And it's never going away, because it doesn't come down. We're never going to pull down a video that long after I'm dead, these will be up here unless the big red button goes out of business. And Mark feels the same way. So the number of people that will see this, and now there's a face. Now this is real. It's no longer me just spitting out statistics that sound really hollow when you say, this number of people. And we say every day, these are sons, these are daughters, these are brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers. But when someone comes on here and puts a name and a face to this, it really becomes something so much more real. And I literally can't thank you enough for having the courage to
my
come on
son's
here.
name is Ryan, and
please show this picture again.
Please
show this picture if you want to.
When he was 11.
Well, no, you know what though?
That's fine.
This.
That's
one of the most powerful things I've ever heard is when you said, I didn't know this would be his middle age.
Yes.
I mean, that's if that doesn't put it in perspective, I don't know that anything is going to.
Thank you for that.
Really, really
I mean,
amazing.
honestly, and I think it really does put it in perspective for people, because the majority of us have kids, or at least somebody's child, right? It puts a whole different light on things when you're talking about stuff in that manner, and when you put a face to it like you did and said what you said. I don't know if you realize how powerful that really was. I mean, the chat just immediately stopped talking. Seriously,
Which doesn't happen here very often.
Literally, it stopped for 30 seconds, and then everybody was like, "Just go watch it. I promise you'll get something."
Well, here's another really serious dose of perspective. I spend about half of the time that I'm on this planet talking about this. I scream about it to every single person that will possibly listen. And I feel like I really have a handle on this, that I'm probably more immersed in this than the next person. And I don't feel like I had a handle on it until tonight.
Yeah.
So I know that people who aren't screaming about this as much as I am must be floored, because this really has become the sort of the focus of my existence. And I know Mark is the same way. And tonight it became so much more real.
Yep. Thank you.
It's affecting it's affecting everybody, and best thing we can do is just help each other through this and help each other out of this.
Amen.
Exactly. Okay.
Cindy, I have done 530 of these, but this one has definitely been probably the most memorable show that I've ever done here on the Lifeboat. Thank you so much for the courage to come on here and talk to everybody.
Of course.
And since you said you have no problem coming back, I think we'll have to come back and do a little Q&A with the
Sure.
people on the Lifeboat.
And once we end the show here, Tony, hang on the Zoom call for a minute, would you?
Okay.
Please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Please. People, we will be back tomorrow night for a show that is not this good, but we will be here anyway. You know what? People, take this to heart, please. If you have a child, talk to them. If you don't, find a nephew or a niece and talk to them. If you have no relatives, just go find a stranger. You know, this is as serious as anything we're ever facing, right? World War II sucked. Vietnam sucked. We lost 57,000 people in Vietnam. We're going to lose 3 times that this year to this, right? And there are people that didn't sign up for this. There's a country that's trying to kill us, whether you want to believe that or not. This is it. This is real. 2 weeks. Ryan was on this. 2 weeks. And this is the result. It's not a life of abusing a drug, right? This is 2 weeks. So please reach out and do something. And we say it all the time on here. Between now and the next time we talk, reach out and try to save somebody. If you don't have a desire to do that now, then you're on the wrong channel. I mean it. I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
Cindy, thank you so much. You are absolutely amazing. And everybody, this is a cat in the basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.